seldom do. We as a country are taking this seriously. It's still the Democratic Party. Keep your eyes on the prize.
Attention all football fans. If you can't see your team play, come and dine with us and watch it live at Boardman, Canfield, or Cortland. Or staying at home, we'll deliver right to your door. That's Coca's Pizza. We serve it hot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Mo Ray. This is The Other Side, and Mario is manning the controls as usual. And he's masked up and ready. And before we get started today, this is Tuesday, October 6th, and it's the first day of early voting in Ohio. I was there this morning. I was the whole thing. I was there from about 8 o'clock to 9:15. Once it got moving, it moved pretty quick, but the lines were substantial. I got a friend that was telling me in Akron it was just insane, and I know it's going to be that way. It's all translating, folks. When you hear they're talking about up to 70% votership in Mahoning County, that's unheard of. So a lot of you are taking this seriously, whether you support the current president or whether you think it's time for him to go. And by the way, in most states, the Democratic registrations are way up. So a lot of people who sat out last time because they didn't see the difference between Hillary and Trump, or because maybe they just didn't like Hillary, well, I think they're going to get out this time. And there's been very few defections from Trump. The Trump supporters support him no matter what. But I do believe there are people who sat on the sidelines last time that will be active this time. And I think you're going to be surprised. I believe me, I do believe this will be close, but Trump is just running, he's just getting trounced in the polls in Michigan, a state that he won by just literally decimal points last time. It's also a similar situation in other states. I know every episode sounds like I'm rehashing, but I think there does need to be some rehashing because some people are not paying attention to what's going on. The simple truth is this is going to be a different election from many in the past because a lot of people are using mail-in votes. And the president has been saying he doesn't trust the integrity of those votes and all that, even though he himself uses mail-in, which it's the same thing in principle, but basically an absentee ballot is what they call it in some states. As in the state of Texas, you really have to have some very dire reasons for needing that absentee ballot. They're not even taking COVID-19 into account. So they are forcing their people to go to the polls. But that's where you've had these situations in Texas and in Georgia where the polls have been, the Georgia situation where the polls didn't close till 1 o'clock in the morning. That's nonsense. But because most of the state laws say that if you get in line before the polls close, you're going to be able to vote. So I don't understand why these states don't accommodate their populations. I don't know if you saw what happened in my native state of Texas, but they had drop boxes set up to accommodate the substantial population of the Houston area, Harris County. And what the governor unilaterally did was said, okay, drop boxes may only be at the Board of Election. So for an area that has thousands of people in it, their only option is to either stand in line or to go drop that ballot off at a singular location instead of trying to make it easier for people to vote. And I think you can make it easier and still maintain integrity of the system. What they're doing is trying to put stumbling blocks in the way. I haven't seen if there's been a ACLU challenge to that Texas situation, but for the governor to make that change so close to the election, highly irregular. And I would hope somebody is trying to mount a court case against it. It's unfair to the people of Texas. And I just seems like to me the Republicans who've had Texas in a death grip for almost 30 years realize that things are shifting. In the midterms, there were some significant pickups by Democrats in Texas. You just don't see that. Biden is running very close in Texas within single digits. You don't see that happen very often. I moved to Ohio at the tail end of the Democratic domination of Texas. George W. Bush had just been elected governor when I moved here, beating Ann Richards. I couldn't believe it. And That's going way back, folks. We're going way back. Texas has been in Republican hands ever since then, ever since George W. Bush left. Well, previous to then, because he was a governor. And then Rick Perry after him, Texas' longest serving governor. But there are significant shifts taking place. Well, I know I'm coming to you from Youngstown, Ohio. Why am I talking about Texas and all these other states? Because this is a national election, and I'm glad to see that Joe Biden's numbers have improved here in Texas. In fact, from what just one day at the poll and just what I feel, despite the significant Trump exposure, if you look at some of the signs and all that, I do believe that the Democrats are going to carry Mahoning County again, regardless of who wins. Let's remember last time around, Ohio went for Donald Trump. Only 3 counties went for Hillary, and Mahoning County was one of them. I don't see that changing. I think it stays the same. I think there are some disaffected people that will vote that way. Speaking of disaffected people, if you're out there and you've been affected by this pandemic, you can't go to work, you're hoping to get some assistance. Well, that's all over. Now that Don's back in the White House, he has unilaterally decided that there will be no more stimulus talks. That's right, folks. No stimulus check, no pandemic unemployment assistance until after the election. And then he's promising to give you the help you need. I hope that promise is a little better than his promise of a health care plan that he's had for almost 4 years now. He's made multiple times recently, yet no health care plan has appeared. I think it tells me he cares more about playing political games. Those of you who think this president cares about you, you are sorely mistaken, because some of you have the last pandemic payments were at the end of July. So you went all the way through August without assistance. The stimulus has been promised. That would be very helpful to some of you who are in trouble. Now, thanks to the president's commandment today, you're going to go through the whole month of October without any assistance as well. So if he really gave a damn, do you think he'd do that? And also, as far as his style with this, he always makes it personal. He and Pelosi don't get along. We know this. I'm sure in the history of this country, there have been speakers and presidents who didn't get along, but they did what they had to do for the sake of the American people. President Trump stopped being, it's probably only the 3rd time I've put those 2 words together, by the way, but anyway, he stopped being involved in the talks long ago. He refuses to sit down and talk to Pelosi, Schumer, and those folks. So he sends his Treasury Secretary, Mnuchin, to do the talking. And they were close. They were like within a few $1 billion, you know. When you're talking about trillions, billions don't seem so big. But it was very close, and because Pelosi was telling the airlines, who are about to lay off 16,000 or more people, to hold off on those layoffs because they were close. But then Trump gets out of the hospital, and the bull in the china closet strikes again. And guess what? You end up with a bunch of bull crap and no assistance in a very difficult time in your life. The number here is 330-595-1600. I'd like some input today. How do you feel? How do you feel about the president and his shenanigans over the weekend? You know, the guy who's supposed to be so sick. I don't know what to believe anymore. Here's the problem. It's like the boy who cried wolf. When you're dealing with a liar, what do you believe? A lot of people are saying, well, all those doctors wouldn't go along with him. Oh, you mean the spin doctors, as some people have dubbed them, particularly the one doctor he started every address to the media by saying he's giving this with the permission of the president. So that's telling me, and I'm sure that's not unique, but Trump is telling him as much as he wants people to know. If you, I noticed when he arrived back at the White House, he stood on the balcony, and there was a moment where he was just standing there, and it was almost like he was trying to force himself to breathe. He's definitely not out of the woods, but they pulled that clip from Twitter and Facebook, so apparently they're trying to do all they can to project that positive image that he wants you to see. Here's the thing. It's that same positive image what some call magical thinking that led these people to think they were immune to this virus that has killed 210,000 Americans. Well, these people thought they were too good when they sat in the Rose Garden a few weeks ago. It hasn't been even a couple of weeks now, but it was for the announcement of Amy Coney Barrett, as I said earlier, as the next Supreme Court justice. And some of the video from that event, these people are hugging like they're at a family reunion, and they're unmasked. There was no social distancing. They were sitting side by side, and I know they thought they were outside, and that made it all cool. But this is what the scientists have been saying. Don't buy that, hey, I'm outside, everything's all right, because the droplets can be transported by air in certain conditions. So you think you're fine, and then you find out you're not. There's just been a lot that's come out that makes you question. Of course, I've never thought much of Donald Trump, and I think he's a man of low character. And I think he proves it even by when he went to a fundraiser anyway. As Marine One was taken off, they got the news that the president's staffer, Hope Hicks, was herself infected. Rather than turn the helicopter around, the president decided to go for it, and he just kind of stay back and socially distance. But there's more. The people who've had to face this president, be close to him for press conferences and that kind of thing. When the news came that the president was infected, the reporters were not notified. Apparently only Republicans were notified. I'm not making this up. Check it out. What? Are you that partisan that you would not even notify people about matters of their own health? We got to get it together, folks. And that's why today I voted for Joe Biden. And I hope you do too. But we'll see what happens. As I said, the numbers are close. But I think some people are tired of this autocrat of a president we have. Because politics is a team sport. And this guy wants to do it all by himself. I remember the cringy remark he made during the campaign. I alone can fix it. I think he really believes that. But thankfully, the founders of this country knew that this would take a team of people. That's why there's 3 branches of government, co-equal branches. Although in the last few years, even before Trump, the presidency has been getting stronger and stronger. And maybe that's a negative, particularly with the wrong president. I think we need to go back to our past politics where the parties hash things out, president votes for them, and that's that. You don't have a president who's constantly sniping at the other side and questioning their motives and all that. Yeah, that's the nature of politics, but it's never been so personal as it is with this man. And his ego and his, the Mary Trump book. Remember the book by his niece? One of the things in there was saying that he frowns upon weakness. His father frowned upon weakness, and they see illness as weakness. And that's why the video that I won't be able to show you today, it just really illustrated that point. You got a guy standing there who looks like he's almost ready to fall over, but he's going to stand there and look strong for the American people, even though it looks like he's basically trying to push the air out of his lungs. We'll see what happens. And by the way, you'll know things have gone south if there's a nighttime run to Walter Reed. You'll know that his bravado did not defeat the COVID-19 virus. But I'm not the only one who's upset by Trump's shenanigans. You have the comments of Jake Tapper, and Jake had a few things to say about and to the President of the United States.
And anger today, emotions that don't necessarily mix well. Sympathy for all of those suffering, including President Trump, who remains at Walter Reed Medical Center. But also anger, because so much of all this pain could have been avoided. So many of us since March have been doing everything we can to preserve the health of not only ourselves and our families, but our communities, our neighbors, you. Social distancing, wearing masks, holding events remotely. Weddings have been canceled, jobs lost. Children are missing out on in-person education and their ability to see friends. It's a real crisis. It's going to leave scars. 208,000 Americans have died. Thousands of Americans have lost loved ones without being able to properly mourn or even say goodbye. But we're in the middle of a once-in-a-century pandemic. Health experts say this is what we need to do in order to get to the other side. Regardless of the sympathy we may feel, we also know the president has been undermining these efforts, expressing disdain for health regulations and those who abide by them. Do you remember this?
Can you take it up because I cannot hear you?
I'll just speak louder, sir.
Oh, okay, good. You want to be politically correct. Go ahead.
No, sir, I just want to wear the
Go ahead.
mask.
Politically correct. The Americans who don't listen to science or medicine, who think masks are too intrusive, who pack bars, who willfully risk spreading the virus, you are making it worse for all of us. You are extending how long this pandemic will last. And it is tragic to say, many, if not most of you, are taking your cues from the leader of the free world. Last weekend, at an event held both inside and outside, but with no masks required and no distancing, President Trump introduced his Supreme Court nominee. So far, at least 8 attendees of that event have tested positive for the virus. Look at Senator Mike Lee at this event. My God, how are future generations going to try to make sense of these images of the Republican leaders of the nation acting like this during a once-in-a-century pandemic with more than 200,000 Americans dead? I wish every one of these leaders, Senator Lee, President Trump, Kellyanne Conway, Chris Christie, I wish you all a full and speedy recovery. But do you not see? It's not just through failed leadership or setting bad examples. You are all now literally risking spreading the virus yourselves. The president and his team have been behaving as if the pandemic is over. This callous indifference to the well-being of the citizens the president swore to protect, it's no longer just theoretical. It's no longer, well, they might get the virus. After finding out Hope Hicks, a top aide with whom the president had been in close contact, after learning she was sick with the virus and actually showing symptoms, the president flew to a fundraiser in New Jersey and mingled. Did anyone in the White House or on the Trump campaign consider at all the housekeepers and bartenders at Bedminster, the naval aviators who flew them there on Air Force One, the young interns or old donors with whom the president came in contact? Anyone? Anyone at all? I wish you all health and recovery and a long life. But we have to note the tragedy here. It is horrible and awful and profound. Sick and in isolation, Mr. President, you have become a symbol of your own failures, failures of recklessness, ignorance, arrogance, the same failures you have been inflicting on the rest of us. Get well, and please, for the rest of us who don't get to go to Walter Reed, get well and get it together.
This is Jake.
And those are the words. I'm so used to looking at that over there, but I'm looking at you over here. But I'm going to have to roll over anyway because I'm getting some comments from you. And let's see. And I know Biden was, I believe, at Gettysburg. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, folks on the screen. And you can join us by phone at 330-595-1600. But let's look at some comments that I've gotten today. Tim says, expect more and more bizarre stunts, at least, I think he means until November 2nd. Oh, that's my birthday. But anyway, so please get me a new president for my birthday. But anyway, let's see. Robert says, I agree. He gave a fantastic speech. He's talking about Joe Biden. Robert also said, Republican governor in Texas. It's simple. Well, this is what I was saying, Robert. There's been a Republican governor in Texas ever since Ann Richards. So we're talking, they've been running that state for almost 30 years, but there are definitely changes taking place, and you'll see. I'm not saying Joe Biden will take Texas. That you'll know that's going to be a paradigm shift if that ever happens. But I do believe you're going to see a close race. You saw the close race between Ted Cruz and Beto O'Rourke. If you just look, Texas is one of 5 so-called minority majority states if every Latino and every black person in Texas voted for Democrats, they could change that state quick. Of course, not every. Of course, most blacks do tend to vote for Democrats. Latinos are less monolithic in their voting, but I do see changes coming. Let's see, more comments. Let's see. Trumpism has revealed itself, says Larry. It revealed itself to be an extremist, right-wing, terrorist death cult. Oh, funny you should say that, sir. And let's go to that. Let's go to a clip of the president's, I called it his joyride. This is when he left the hospital, and a lot of senior physicians there were unaware this was going to take place. But let me put a little more context on this. Let's remember that these are presidential vehicles. These vehicles, once you get in, you're hermetically sealed. You know why? Because there could be a possible chemical attack, biological attack. So that's why they put that in that vehicle. But guess what? That also means if you're in the vehicle, what's ever in there stays in there. So if you're a Secret Service agent riding with the very ill president of the United States for the sake of his ego, there's a good chance you might get infected. Let's pay attention to the news to see if any of the agents involved in this joyride are infected. But let's take a look at this real quick.
God bless our president. I will die for him. I will die for that man, happily. I will die for him. Anybody want to mess with him, you mess with me first. He is a hero, that man.
I will die for him? Well, I hope you do so before voting, sir. Anyway, that tells you we're into a weird period, doesn't it? So if you don't think this is a cult, and I don't think that word is overused. In fact, I'm going to bring out some pictures later. I took some still pictures. Places, one's a place I'll never shop. Another's a place I'm glad I don't know who lives there. But you will see the fanaticism behind this guy. It is going into the realm of cultishness. It's not just a Trump sign in your front yard. It's like Christmas or Halloween, except it's red, white, and blue, and it says Trump. That's way over the top. And this is, if you ever needed a reason, man. Like I saw a shirt the other day at one of these stands, and it said, "Let's make liberals cry again." You know who I want to see cry? I want to see the people who put all this crap on their houses cry. I want them to express the same shock a lot of us did 4 years ago when this guy slithered into the White House. That's what I want to see. But let's watch. How was that, Larry, as far as Trumpism? Extremists, a death cult? You heard that guy? I will gladly die for him. That's a hero. Really? Wow. But let's see. Oh, and Tim, your birthday's November 1st. Well, happy birthday coming up. Okay, and more so. Let's see. I agree. I really got to hear that Biden speech. I don't know if I'll have a chance to get a. And Robert, when he saw this, the joyride, he said, "Driving Miss Crazy." I like that. And let's see. Anything else? Akron, the Board of Elections has been crazy busy today, too, in Summit County. Okay. Two, Summit County. I think I got you. Parenthesis. Congratulations on voting, Mo, says Julie. Okay. And Debbie says I'm doing a good job. I hope so, Debbie. And I'm even going to use a clip you suggested a little bit later. But quickly, let's take a look at the president's exit from Walter Reed, and of course he had to make it dramatic.
Mr. President, how many staff are sick? How many of your staff are sick?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do you think you might be a super spreader, Mr. President?
So there you have it. The president leaving Walter Reed, and I love it. The guy asked him how many of his staff were sick. As I said, the last count I had, we're talking about 12 people. Senator Tom Tillis of Pennsylvania, he's infected. Kayleigh McEnany, the press secretary, is infected. Christie has checked himself into the hospital, which I think means he's infected. Kellyanne Conway is infected, and by the way, she brought it home. Her daughter, who has kind of become somewhat of a celebrity herself, her daughter said she was infected on that went out on the internet this weekend. So, as I said, you saw some of the footage in that Jake Tapper piece of everybody hugging like they were at the old reunion. When are we going to get real about this? And don't you see the danger of having a president who doesn't take it seriously? A president who is now trying to tell you that he's beat this thing. He's beat it ahead of schedule even. And guess what? Some of his followers are lapping that up.
We got a call.
Well, I got a call. I guess I'll take that call. All right.
Let's talk. Let's see. What
Okay,
happens.
let's see. Who do we have here?
Hello, Mo?
Hello.
Hey, it's Charlene Frederick. How are you?
I'm fine, Charlene. And what do you think of all that's going on here?
Well, I think you can probably guess that. But the reason I'm calling is, most people don't get high dose steroids. A lot of us get them for, you get bronchitis or something, and you get this little pack, these little tiny pills, and you take so many a day, and it weans you back off, and then people are okay. I have a medical condition where I have been on high dose steroids. And let me tell you something. I felt like Superwoman.
Oh.
I could have built a house.
No, let me tell you, with my back issues, I definitely had the steroid thing, and I went to GM, and I felt the same way you did. I felt like I could kick a hole in the wall, it does. And by the way, what a doctor brought out today was that extreme doses of these steroids can cause psychosis in a patient. The problem is with Trump, how do you know? But yes, but go ahead.
But the thing is, when I went off of them, I had the most hellacious nightmares, like just space travel, crazy ass stuff. I dreamt I was falling off the bed, it was falling off a cliff, and I mean, it messes with you. And that's what people don't realize about the condition that our president is in right now. I believe, because I know I've been there with, and I'm sure I would guess that he's on is more high dose than what I had. And I know what it did to me. So this really frightens me.
Well, I think we should be concerned, but then you've got, I'll see comments like on the 27 WKBN page where the people are saying, well, why do you need to know his oxygen level? Or why do you need to know what he's taking? Because he is the leader of the free world, because we want to know if he's taking something that might affect his psyche. We want to know how close to death, if at all, is he? If they played around with the whole thing of the oxygen, whether or not, obviously he had below normal oxygen levels. That's dangerous stuff. So we just want to know. And as I said, let's see. I was actually talking to Mario about that. If there is a late night trip back to Walter Reed, you'll know that the macho didn't win. The COVID won.
Well, that whole show that he put on last night when he got back to the White House, when I first saw the setup of the flags on the true balcony, I thought, oh, don't cry for me, Argentina.
Mm-hmm. No, it was very much third world. It was very much like a third world thing or a Kim Jong Un thing. Even a friend of mine on Facebook commented the whole. And by the way, you notice the timing. He left the hospital exactly around 6:30 when the networks have their news, so he would be spotlighted. It wasn't. He probably could have left hours early. Probably could have left later. But no, 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 no. He can get all this free press.
Yeah, he said it that morning that he would be released around 6:30. It's all planned.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, if you just want some little nuances, you know, forget about okay, he got up the steps, everybody's trying to decide if he was out of breath or not. But, you know, he fixes his coat after he puts his mask in the pocket. Then he called that photographer up.
After he takes his mask off.
After he takes his mask off, he's like, come on, go up there. And somebody must have told him, button your jacket. So he buttons his jacket. Then, you know, then they start taking more. And the pictures apparently weren't good enough because he goes in, comes back out.
Well,
the whole camera crew film the thing again.
Well, I'll tell you what was going on there. He was probably filming a campaign spot, some people say, because he did have the extra lighting and everything. So, you know, he never misses a minute. No matter what happens, he's going to make sure it's. Remember, these people were upset. They were being sworn in, and they didn't sign any releases or anything. So you had at least 3 people who were included in a Trump campaign ad that wanted no part of it. They were glad to be sworn in by the president, but they were not voting for him. They didn't endorse him, but he didn't ask them to use their likenesses. This, like I said, this is the guy who just kind of wings it. Whatever I want to do, I'm going to do.
Yep.
And
he has the faculties, no, well, not the mental faculties, he has the resources. At his beck and call, you know, who is he saluting? Marine One? You know.
yes.
You just call up Marine One and say, hey, I need to go get some oxygen. You know?
Yeah, a lot of people said he could have made the drive in about 30 minutes, but I think they were really worried about him that night because, believe me, as I said, this guy wants to play strong, and I think he would rather, you know, he would go to the last before he would go to the hospital, and then he couldn't wait to get out. I mean, first, you know, that's the typical Trump changed the story. At first, he said he was there because he didn't want to just be upstairs in the White House. So he decided he'd come there and work at the office they have at Walter Reed. But then all of a sudden that changes. And then and once again, go ahead.
But is this a medical facility at the White House on the lower level?
Office next door? Yes, but apparently the residence is upstairs. I take it. He kept talking about upstairs. He just said he didn't want to be upstairs. So, but by the way, the White House, I didn't know this, is equipped with an ICU right there in the White House. Who knew? So that's got to be an interesting place because
MRIs, CTs, everything. Whatever you need, it's right there. Lab.
Well, see,
it's very fishy.
well, what else is fishy is this man who is, once again, the leader of the free world, telling people, and by the way, you notice after he caught it, it's not the China virus anymore. It's the coronavirus. It's COVID-19. It's not a joke anymore because guess what? I'm sick, you know, so
Apparently it's Corona orange because the last few days when he went to Walter Reed, he didn't have his orange face.
Well, yeah.
Like he had the
Well, yes. No, you're not the only one to notice that. In fact, they showed him side by side, and you're right. One, he looks like normal Trump. The other side, he looks like an uncooked chicken breast. So, anyway, I got to move on, but I thank you for your input. All right, see you soon. Okay, bye. Yes, I do know that lady, and I'm glad she called. If you'd like to call, the number here is 330. Oh, no, I forgot. 330 595. There it is. 595 1600. I always remember the 1600 because it's like 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the location of the White House. But speaking of the White House, I think we found that clip I was talking about. Watch Trump, if this plays, watch him try to breathe. Okay. And we'll have that. Is it ready or?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's take a look at this. All right, look at him here. Watch his breathing. Look at that. This is not easy for him. And of course, yeah, he's gonna, but he just stands there, as I said, for whatever reason. There is an ad being made, but look at the labored breathing. So, you tell me. We'll find out in the days to come how sick the president really is. I don't know. And because of what I heard another doctor say, as I brought up, I think we already know. You've seen it in the NFL athletes and people like that who take these steroids, wrestlers, the effects they can have on people's, well, it can just really bring out the worst in you. And of course, you've heard the term roid rage. You don't need a president of the United States with roid rage. And I'm sure they're giving him the strongest doses they can to keep him going. But we'll see where this goes. Follow closely, folks. And, let's see what other comments have popped up here. Let's see. Raymond says, oh, my God, dude said I'd die for that man. You want to hurt him, you got to go through me first. Yeah, that's what he said, Ray. I'm going to call you Ray. You say Raymond, but I'm going to call you Ray. And let's see. Tim says, just read Facebook has banned QAnon post on all of its platforms. Oh, good. QAnon. Those Q people are really nuts. And so I'm sure you'll hear about that. But when they, and by the way, this is not a free speech matter. It is their platform, okay? So if they think that's why they have their community standards, which, by the way, I am still trying to understand. But because I've been banned, put in Facebook jail for saying things that weren't offensive, threatening, or profane. I don't know how they decide who to ban, but they do. But I am definitely glad they decided to ban these people, especially the closer we get to the election. And this is the other thing I've talked about. Because of the lag time that is going to be involved in this election, we will not know election night. We may not even know election week. I've been saying it may take a day or two to count these mail-in ballots. These are record numbers of mail-in ballots in most of these states that allow it. And it could be maybe not until the next week that we know who the president is. And this is frightening to me. With any normal president, I wouldn't worry about it because I know they'd go about their daily duties and they would just kind of let the chips fall where they may. Do you think Donald Trump is going to do that? Do you think Donald Trump on steroids is going to do that? I think he will be stirring the pot, as will the pundits, as will the people in the streets. There may be more riots, hopefully not. There'll definitely be protests. And the longer it takes to find out the winner, the more seeds of suspicion the president can plant, the more conspiracy theories can be put on the internet. I'm very concerned. I'll leave it at that. Let's hope that we remain the country we are and that calmer heads prevail. But this is a dangerous period in the history of this country because we have a person in charge who is more interested in their own political survival than he is in the survival of the American people. I think he's proved that if you listen to those interviews with Bob Woodward, where he's on one day telling Woodward, this is bad stuff, Bob, this is bad. And then that afternoon, he stands behind the presidential sill and tells everybody, everything's fine, go back to work. I don't trust this man, nor should you. But speaking of that, this is an ad from Act Blue. It's actually a group called Really American, but they're an offshoot of Act Blue, which is a political action committee. And they call this COVID caught Trump.
This is deadly stuff. It's not just old people. Young people, it's more deadly than even your strenuous flus. You just breathe the air. That's how it's passed.
To the extent possible, you physically distance yourself and you wear a mask literally at all times that you're on the outside.
Now the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. This is their new hoax. I mean, view this the same as the flu. I think wearing a face mask, I won't be doing it personally. Can you take it off because I cannot hear?
I'll speak louder, sir.
Oh, okay, good. You want to be politically correct. Go ahead.
No, sir, I just want to wear the mask.
The president tweeted Wednesday that he disagrees with his own CDC's guidelines for opening schools.
If you look at children, almost immune from this disease.
President Trump is not only leading his first indoor campaign rally since the pandemic restrictions, but the event itself is defying the recommendations of the White House Coronavirus Task Force.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask.
Disaster has been declared in all 50 states.
The country has surpassed 200,000 deaths from the virus.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
The President of the United States now confirming to the world that he and the First Lady have both tested positive for the coronavirus.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your response to this crisis?
I'd rate it a 10.
Well, I would disagree, Mr. President. I think, of course, it's not his personal disease, but I think the way he handled it, I didn't even realize that there was a clip of that Woodward interview there. So he's being interviewed in January. He knew how bad this was in January, and this country wasn't shut down until March. He watched the death count grow daily, yet he continued to do the happy talk. He continued to say everything is fine, we've got this. Well, he didn't have control, but when it comes to coronavirus, yeah, now he's got this, and it's his fault. But I'm trying to see, is that one up, ready to go, or is that just a written thing?
No, this is the Trump blast Nancy Pelosi.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta pull it up, but we'll have to play through an ad first. I just don't want to play it because they'll hear you.
Okay.
They'll hear the ad, so I'd rather them see the ad too.
Okay, I got you. Well, like I said, and apologies, folks. We're almost out of time anyway. It went a little faster than I thought. Mm-hmm. You know what? If we play nothing else today, I've already mentioned the fact that there will be no stimulus and Trump blasted Pelosi. They were closer than they'd ever been. But let's listen, since that's already queued up. And I want to thank Debbie for sending me this clip. This was an interview on BBC News 4 over in England. And they were talking to Bruce Springsteen about Donald Trump. And he says a couple of insightful things, I think.
The trouble at the moment is you have Donald Trump, who is talking about rigged elections. And he has a feeling he's going to lose now, which of course he is going to lose.
You're confident?
Oh yeah, he's going to lose. And he knows that. He knows he's going to lose. And he's such a flagrant, toxic narcissist that he wants to take down the entire democratic system with him if he goes. If he could reflect on these things, maybe he'd have, but he's such an unreflective person. And he simply has no sense of decency and no sense of responsibility about him. And the words that he's been using over the past several weeks really are an attack on the entire democratic process.
And is that dangerous?
Yeah, it is. I think it's very dangerous. He does have a lot of people's ears. And I don't think he's going to go quietly into gently into the good night. I think he's going to make a big a mess as he can. And I don't know what that's going to mean, but we'll find out shortly.
I could not agree with him more. I as I was stating earlier, I think this is going to be an ugly situation regardless to who wins. But if Donald Trump loses, he will not go quietly. And you've already, last week, all the talk was about the Proud Boys. Well, the Proud Boys posted a few videos saying that if Biden wins, they're bringing it to you, whatever that means. So let's remember, these guys are very dangerous. I showed you a clip of the leader. He's talking about, punching people out, killing people, all this kind of stuff. So this is why I worry about the post-election period. The sooner we know who the winner is, the better. And I wonder if Donald Trump is defeated, since now he's saying that he's going to wait till after the election to even think about any more stimulus. Will a defeated Donald Trump even bother with a stimulus then? He want, you know, I guess you can consider it a parting gift, if you will. But I think he's part of him believes he will be reelected, and then he can just start his second term with a big lump of money in your lap. But you need that money now. In fact, a lot of you, as I pointed out, needed it a month ago. And he's going to play games with you. Donald Trump will not miss a meal. Donald Trump's lights will be on at the White House. Donald Trump's kids are grown. Don't have to worry about feeding them. There are a lot of you out there. And then I'll see some people make these ignorant comments in comment sections on newspapers or TV stations and say that there's plenty of jobs out there. There may well be. But are there, you know, if you were working in a job that paid a substantial salary and now what do? You go down at a quick stop and make maybe a third of what you were making? Who takes care of the kids while you're doing that if they're not in school? Now, of course, some kids are going back to physical school now. But all this stuff, it's just so silly that some of the countries that are having success in fighting this, they're doing it because they didn't have all this opposition to masking and distancing. They didn't have some of the and they certainly didn't have a leader who was sending mixed messages, who for a moment while talking to Dr. Fauci, or had Dr. Fauci at his side, was all on board with social distancing, masking, all that, even though he refused to wear a mask himself. Some woman on Facebook told me that I was a terrible person because I said I didn't feel sorry for any of them. I don't feel sorry for any of them. I don't feel sorry for the guy I see walking around the grocery store with their nose hanging over their mask. I don't feel sorry for you. You're stupid. The facts are the facts. Will a mask protect you 100%? No. The mask is to protect me from you, and we protect each other. And of course, we're such individuals in this country. We like to talk about our freedom and our rights. You don't have a right to make me sick. You never had that right. And you're ignorant. The president of the United States is equally ignorant. And that's why we are leading the world in both infections and deaths. And I don't anticipate that getting any better anytime soon because of, there it is again, ignorance. So if it sounds like I'm mean, I'm not being mean. I'm just sick of a bunch of grown people who are supposed to be educated. And there they were in that rose garden acting like the pandemic is over. When I see a bunch of college kids throwing a kegger like the pandemic is over. When I walk in a store and the cashier has her mask under her nose. We're never going to beat this thing as long as we keep behaving the way we behave. And we're certainly, if you want somebody to lead by example, well, I'm afraid you're going to have to look somewhere beyond the White House. Because what's the first thing this infectious president did when he got to the balcony there on the White House? At the White House? He took his mask off. He's just still trying to wish it away. And that one video, oh, I can't believe that. Well, we're out of time now, but Thursday, you would have seen it a million times by then, but the one where he says, don't live in dread, don't fear this thing, that's the exact wrong message you need to be sending at the height of a pandemic. You should, no, not live in fear, but respect this thing and follow the rules, the simple rules. Wash your hands, wear a mask, social distance, all that. Do that. This is not a political thing. This is an intelligence test. Do you want to get sick or not? And on that happy note, I guess we'll call it a day. I'll see you Thursday. By the way, tomorrow night, the vice presidential debate is taking place. They'll be at least 12 feet apart. They're arguing about whether or not there'll be plexiglass between them. I don't think they need that. I think the 12 feet should cover it. Pence tested negative yet again. Harris is negative. Let's do this. But in the case of the president with COVID-19, Mr. President, stay positive. I'm Mo Ray saying, as I always do, keep your eyes on the prize.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about us. Thank you.